Good morning, happy Sunday. It's Jet here, coming at you with your first official perfect pitch ear training lesson. And today I'm going to give you your very first exercise. But before I do, let's just go ahead and recap what we discussed in the previous video, because what is very important before diving into perfect pitch ear training is to understand the theory of perfect pitch ear training. If you don't understand the theory, you're going to be approaching your ear training in the wrong way. You're going to try and rush through it. You're going to try to do weird things to kind of force your ear to do things that it's not ready to do. You might try and memorize tones one at a time. That's not how it works. The development of perfect pitch is something that gradually happens. Your ear becomes generally more alert, and you're able to hear. You'll start to notice that you're able to recognize the differences between all the tones. You're not memorizing one note at a time. Some notes might stick a little bit earlier than others, but generally speaking, all of the notes start to take on their own very unique individual flavors, and you're going to be able to tell them apart. So it's important to understand the theory behind perfect pitch before we start diving into the exercises, because I don't want you to approach these exercises in a way that will be counterproductive to your efforts. All right, so let's just quickly review what we discussed in the previous video. And the way that we can come to know what perfect pitch is by going over all of the things that they're not. So the very first thing that we talked about was that perfect pitch is not timbre. Timbre is the unique characteristic of each instrument. Like a ukulele has its own particular timbre, piano has its own timbre, etc. Saxophone has its own timbre, but the pitch colors are all the same no matter what instrument you're playing. A G sounds like a G on the piano, and it sounds like a G on the ukulele, even though the timbres are different. Okay, so that's the difference between timbre and pitch color. We're looking for pitch color in our ear training. The other thing that perfect pitch is not, it's not associating visual color to these sound colors. We're not attributing visual colors to these sound colors. Okay, these are sound waves, sound colors, which each have their own characteristic and flavor. And we will do an exercise that involves assigning visual colors to these, but it's not meant to be permanent, all right? Perfect pitch is not vocal tension pitch. So if you're a singer like me, perfect pitch is not thinking, okay, at this part of my voice, I know it's going to be this pitch because I'm just so used to feeling that in my vocal cords. That's not perfect pitch either, all right? Perfect pitch is not relative pitch, although you do want to have both. It's like extremely advantageous. Your ear is 4 times more powerful when you have developed both relative pitch and perfect pitch. Relative pitch is the focusing of the pictures on your TV. It allows you to make out the shapes on your screen, but without perfect pitch, it's black and white. Everything's in focus. You can see the images, but they're black and white. That's relative pitch. Perfect pitch is the color, which gives you a whole new appreciation for music. Okay, so we want both because your ear is 4 times as powerful. Perfect pitch allows you to transcribe a lot faster, a lot easier. It allows you to improvise a little bit better, and it just makes music more fun. For me personally, it just makes music like 100 times more enjoyable and exciting, because these colors are there. We hear them. You hear them, even though you probably don't recognize what they are. You hear them. If you love music, it's because you hear these colors. You just have to train to recognize and know what they are. All right, and so we need both. Also, we discussed that there are different levels of color hearing. The very first foundational level is a color awareness. Like I just said, you can hear these colors. You have a very subtle awareness of them. For example, you can hear that this note is different and sounds different and feels different from this note. Now, if you enjoy music at all, you can tell that there's a difference. Otherwise, you wouldn't, if you couldn't hear the difference, you wouldn't be able to enjoy music, okay? It's these differences that allow us to enjoy music. All right? That's color awareness, and that's the very first level. All right? And you can tell, like, when a song changes keys, you can hear that too. Like, if you're used to hearing a particular song in a particular key, if all of a sudden you heard somebody playing it in a different key, you can kind of feel that there's something different about it. Okay, that's a very subtle awareness that I think all of us who love music already possess. Okay, so you're not deaf, you can hear this stuff. All right, the second level of color hearing is color discrimination. Now, once you start doing these exercises, you're going to be able to discriminate between the different characteristics. This one has a particular characteristic. This one has this one just sounds like an E flat. This one just sounds like an F sharp. You'll just be able to know those characteristics, and I won't give you like any descriptors, because I don't want you to attach your mind to these descriptors. I want you to arrive at these discoveries on your own, so that these discoveries are meaningful to you, which will allow you to internalize them and learn them better for yourself. Okay, so I'm not going to tell you what they are. You're going to come to discover them on your own, so it's more meaningful and permanent for you. All right. Then the third level of color hearing, which I personally believe is the highest level of perfect pitch, at least in my experience so far, is just pitch recall. To be able to recall the pitch in your mind, hear it, and know that it's that note. So you'll be able to sing a C. You'll be able to sing the notes out of thin air. Okay, so so that's what we discussed over the previous video, and I wanted to add one more thing to that list that I didn't mention before. The other thing that perfect pitch is not, it's not the intellect. Okay, I know a lot of people, musicians especially, when they think of people who have perfect pitch, if you're a musician that doesn't have perfect pitch, you might have thought, or you might have been told, the idea that perfect pitch is somehow measuring the height, like how high and how low a note is. And although we can measure that this note is lower than this note, and we can measure that with a tuner and know the exact frequencies of it, perfect pitch is not being a human computer. People who have perfect pitch are not sitting there listening to music, doing all these superhuman fast calculations in their heads to determine what those pitches are. They're not saying, oh, this A is 440 hertz, that's how I know that it's an A. No, you're not a machine, okay? And that would actually take a lot longer, I think, if you were going to try to do perfect pitch that way. People who have true perfect pitch, they're not thinking at all. It's a feeling. That's why they can recognize it just about instantaneously. They just know this is an E, that you just know, okay? It's a feeling. Once you get to really know these tones and they're internalized, you'll feel them. There's no mental gymnastics going on there. As a matter of fact, the more you try to think your way into learning perfect pitch, the more you're going to trip over yourself and stunt your progress. When we do perfect pitched ear training, I want you to completely get out of your mind and get into your feelings, because this is a feeling perception. It's a sensitivity that we're developing. We're expanding our awareness to perceive these notes and really, really feel them in a very deep and meaningful way. All right, it's not like relative pitch. Relative pitch is very intellectual. It's the mind's understanding of what the ear hears. Relative pitch, we're doing math. We're measuring. These are, these are perfect fifths and perfect fourths and major thirds. That's very much intellectual. All right, we're thinking about relative pitch. Perfect pitch, we're not thinking about it. All right, we're sensing it. We're perceiving it. It's like we see colors. We don't think about them. We see them and enjoy them. They're just there. All right, that's what makes music so beautiful, is these colors. And so once you're able to really know what these colors are, music just all of a sudden starts to just pop. It's like, it's beautiful. It's like even more beautiful than if you love music now, you're gonna love music as somebody who has color hearing. All right, so let's go over my notes for you for today, and then I'm going to give you your first exercise for today. So, okay, so the couple things I want to talk about today is in our ear training, there are going to be essentially two separate phases. Phase one is going to involve exercises that will allow your ear to start soaking in these sounds. And phase one is all about these exercises in phase one are all about waking up your ear gently, very, very gradually. Your ear will start to become generally more alert as you start doing these exercises every day. All right. And one of the most important things that I need to emphasize to you in this training is that we do not rush. We do not force the ear ever. The more you force the ear, the more you rush, the more it will resist. Trust me, I know, because I was really impatient in the very beginning, and it took so much longer than it needed to. All right. If you can just learn to relax, just stop the thinking mind. We're going to do exercises that involve a sort of ear training meditation that will help you to calm your mind, settle your mind, and just relax with these sounds. That's the best thing you can do. The other thing I want to emphasize to you is that these exercises are like childlike simple. It's the reason why children can spontaneously pick up perfect pitch, or they learn it so much faster than adults, because they're not stuck in their heads. Okay, children, they're like a sponge. They're completely open. And so we want to approach these exercises with the same childlike simplicity, the same childlike wonder, and the same childlike fascination with these sounds. That's how it starts to happen. Your ears will gradually start to become more alert as we do these exercises in phase one. It's like tilling the soil. Okay, we're preparing the soil for your ears to start absorbing these sounds and internalizing them. Okay. Phase two is it starts to crystallize. This is where we really start to gain this perfect pitch perception. And these sounds start to become very, very clear, and you're able to discriminate between each one. You'll be able to tell the difference in the very beginning. Right now, you can tell that this sounds different from this. Okay, you already have that awareness. So phase one is just culturing that awareness. Phase two, that awareness starts to become crystallized, and it becomes like all of a sudden you're like, oh yeah, that's a C. All right, so that's phase two. And then after that, if you want, we're going to start developing pitch recall. So beyond just being able to hear notes and identify them, you'll be able to sing them out of thin air, just from your imagination. You'll be able to close your eyes, imagine what the sound of a C is, and sing it. La. Okay, it'll just be there for you. All right, so these are the phases that you can expect as you go through these trainings. But again, I want to emphasize, No rushing. We do not rush or force the ears ever. We are very gentle. As a matter of fact, I wouldn't recommend more than 10 or 15 minutes per day of this ear training, because we don't want to tire the ear and we don't want to abuse the ear. All right? We have nothing but respect for our most important asset as musicians and singers, is our ears. All right, and I also highly recommend that you do all of these exercises first thing in the morning when your mind is fresh, when you can sort of have that, I think it's the alpha mind waves when you first wake up. I think it's alpha, or is it beta? I can't remember, but it's when you're most open and you're and you've got that childlike sort of vibe going on. Okay, so those are the different phases. So the reason why I'm talking so much about it is because it's so important to understand the theory. Without the theory, we're going to approach our exercises in completely the wrong way, and it will just kind of be totally unproductive, if not counterproductive. So the first exercise I want to give you is going to be a preliminary exercise. This exercise is designed to get you sort of thinking in terms, it's designed to help your ear to start listening for something that's very abstract, because again, we're not doing math here. It's not like relative pitch. We're doing something very abstract here. So in order to do this, what I want you to do, even though I just said that perfect pitch is not attributing visual colors to each of these sounds, I actually want you to sit down at your instrument, play one note at a time, very slowly, very easily, and I want you to just imagine what the sound color is to you. And there's not going to be a wrong or right answer for this, and that is getting annoying. Does anybody own that car? La. I'm gonna say that's like an A flat, between A flat and A. La. A flat. All right, you start to do that because it's just fun. Your microwave will have a tone, the doorbell, you'll just be able to know the songs you hear. You'll know what key it is. Okay, it's fun. And what was I saying? Oh shit, I lost my train of thought now. It's still early in the morning for me. Oh yeah, we're not permanently attributing visual colors to these sounds. This is just an exercise to get your ear listening for something that's very abstract. All right, so I just want to reiterate that perfect pitch is not the permanent assigning of visual colors to each of our musical sounds. That's not what it is. But just in the very, very beginning, I want you to sit down at your instrument and just make a color chart. Sit down and take your time with each note, and just for fun, listen to each sound and go ahead and pick a color of what you think that sound would be. What color would that actually be? And there's no right answers for this. Everyone's gonna literally have different answers. And then I want you to come back to this video and put in the comments what colors you picked for each sound. This is not a test. You're not gonna be wrong. Everyone's gonna have their own color choices. Okay, again, it's just to kind of get your ear into the mode of listening for something abstract. And then we're just gonna forget about it. This is not a permanent labeling, all right? And also, I'm not going to give you any descriptors whatsoever, even though I have my own personal descriptors for, like say this E flat, like to me, it's got certain descriptors that mean something to me, but I'm not gonna tell you what they are, because I want you to discover these qualities, the qualities of each and every sound on your own. As you do these exercises, you're going to come to a discovery that is meaningful to you, that will help you to internalize these beautiful sounds. All right, so I'm not going to tell you any descriptors. I'm not going to tell you any colors. I want you to arrive at these things on your own. But again, I just want to reiterate, we're not going to be permanently attributing visual colors to these sounds. We're also not going to be acting like musical calculators trying to calculate frequencies, okay? That's not what it's about. This is a very simple and subtle perception. One last thing I want to emphasize to you is that we just take it easy. We're never going to rush, and also we're not oh, what was it I was just going to say? I'm just waking up. Oh my gosh. We're not rushing, and we're not pushing our ear to get these sounds. All right, so the more you're able to take it easy and just relax, the quicker it'll come for you. Oh yeah, what I wanted to say is that every musician is different. For example, violinists, they're already primed for perfect pitch ear training. If they don't already have perfect pitch, they're very, very ripe for it, because violinists, like other fretless players, they have to produce each pitch on their own. So they've been practicing this already. So they're already in a, to a certain degree, are listening deeply in this way. So violinists will tend to pick up perfect pitch pretty quickly. But don't compare yourself to anyone. Go at your own pace. The other thing I want to say too is pick one instrument, maybe two. So if you're a saxophonist, if you're an instrumentalist like a violinist, a flutist, saxophonist, go ahead and use those instruments. Those will work with these exercises. If you're a singer, I would recommend using the piano. And for exercises that involve playing 2 or more notes at the same time, go ahead and just use the piano. I think that is probably the most universal sound. Most every human being on the planet can recognize the sound of the piano. But throughout the duration of your training, I want you to really just try and stick with 1 and 2 instruments at the most. The piano and your primary flute or violin, whatever your primary instrument is, okay? You might even use a synthesizer that has a flute sound in order to get the chords and stuff like that. The reason for that is because we want to give your ears the opportunity to just settle into the sounds, into the timbre of your chosen instrument that you're going to be using for this training. So that your ear is not having to do the extra work of having to kind of discriminate between the different timbres of different instruments. Just pick 1 or 2 primary instruments that you'll use for this training, so that your ear can just relax and settle in and focus more on pitch color and not have to worry about timbre. All right, so that's just in the beginning. Later on, as you start really developing perfect pitch, you'll be able to hear these sounds in just about any instrument, even car horns. Okay, so don't worry. But in the very, very beginning, just pick 1 instrument to give your ear a chance to just settle down as you're doing these exercises. All right, so that's your first assignment for today, is to create a color chart, sit down at your primary instrument, play 1 at a time, very, very easily, very slowly. Just relax and enjoy the note and soak it in, and just close your eyes and just imagine what that color would be like. If you had to pick a visual color for that sound, what would it be like? Make your color chart, share it in the comments below. It'll be really interesting to see all the different answers and what different people think these different colors are to them. And remember, we're not doing it permanently. It's just a beginning exercise. All right, so that's it for now. Thanks so much for watching. And if you have any questions, let me know. I'm here for you. And I'll look forward to seeing you on the next video. All right, bye for now.